Today's episode is brought to you by Media for All, which was set up to help encourage more Black, Asian, and other ethnic talent into media, and to provide a support and mentoring network to ensure talent flourishes in the media industry that we all love. If you're looking for a mentor or would like to mentor young ethnic talent, check them out at mediaforall.org.uk, and it is all 100% free.
Hello and welcome to the Shiny New Object podcast. My name is Tom Ollerton. I'm the founder of Automated Creative, and this is a podcast about the future of marketing. Every week or so, I have the pleasure and the privilege of interviewing one of our industry's leaders, and this week is certainly no different. I'm on a call with Jon Hall, who is Brand and Product Marketing Director at Whirlpool Corporation. Jon, for those of the audience who aren't familiar with who you are and what you do, can you give them a bit of an overview?
Yeah, sure, Tom. First, thanks for having me on your podcast. Looking forward to spending some time with you. Just a little brief background on myself. I actually got into marketing when I was in the military, in the Army, in combat in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I shifted from kind of a platoon leader, patrol leader, kind of conducting QRF type missions, trying to get roadside bombs off the streets, to a non-lethal officer where I was expected to start to communicate to the local population, to encourage them to reach out to the coalition forces and start calling the 911 number as a call to action so that we could provide more peace and prosperity in the area. A town called Adwar, which is actually where Saddam Hussein's hometown was. After deciding to get out of the military, I transitioned to Kraft Foods. They kind of saw the leadership background, proven leader, leading troops in combat, and said, we'll teach you the business side, we'll teach you the marketing side. You're kind of doing marketing already. And had a chance at Kraft Foods to lead businesses like Kraft Macaroni and Cheese, Velveeta Shells and Cheese, Bullseye Barbecue Sauce, launching Planters business into the peanut butter category, some really fun stuff. I was surrounded by brilliant marketers at the time that are now very successful CMOs, CEOs, and I kind of sponged it up. I listened to what they were saying. I was a student of the craft they were teaching me, and I knew I was going to leave Kraft someday and try to kind of share my experiences with a company that really needed to build their marketing capabilities. And I landed at Whirlpool Corporation, which is a global organization headquartered in Michigan. I had a chance to lead the iconic Whirlpool brand, which is distributed in over 180 countries, over 100 years old, and brought in a lot of new marketing capabilities to the organization, and then had a chance to lead the luxury high-end business, Jen Air, across their brand and marketing planning and execution activities, as well as merchandising and post-purchasing. And it was just really putting all my experiences from the Army and Kraft Foods to work. And so today I teach at Notre Dame in Mendoza School of Business Marketing, and I teach at Rice Jones School College of Business as well, where I love to have a positive influence on students that are looking to become great marketers as they graduate from their MBAs. So I'm currently working at Whirlpool Corporation, leading a pretty big project for the company, and still in marketing, doing marketing every day.
So that is a very varied career, and certainly one of the most varied. And I think for one of our only military veterans on the podcast, so that is incredibly unusual and very interesting. And so I'm absolutely dying to know, across all of those different careers and those different positions, what has been that biggest screw up where you were just hand and face ashamed that it had happened, but ultimately you are so glad that it did?
Yeah, I've had a lot of screw-ups in the military, at Kraft, and at Whirlpool. In a lot of ways, it's the screw-ups that fuel me to grow and become a better marketer than I was prior to that screw-up. And one that was embarrassing, one that's haunted me, was when I was leading the Jen Air business. It's Whirlpool's highest end luxury business. A suite of Jen Air products can cost $40,000, $50,000. If you think of the auto industry, you're talking the Mercedes, the Audi, the BMWs of high-end of luxury appliances. And so I was leading a team, the business, where we were making a significant investment in repositioning the brand from low-end luxury to high-end luxury. Essentially, Gen Air was like the infinity of the auto industry. It wasn't really like up there with the Mercedes and the BMWs, and that's certainly where we aspired it to be. And so, huge investments in brand new pipeline of product, over 200 new luxury appliances that my team had been working on across two very distinct design languages, one very modern, one a little bit more traditional. My team is working with 10 engineering platforms over a period of about 3 years, going to distribute these products into over 1,000 retail stores. Huge anticipation from designers and architects because, we're really trying to push the industry forward, both in design, in material selection, in performance. These products are connected to a digital app. I mean, we're really striving to become the new standard of luxury in the appliance industry. And through this, my team developed a new brand strategy that was translated across the product. It was translated across the service, across the pricing model, across the distribution model. So this was a complete repositioning reset. We're also expecting to age our business down by about 25 years. A majority of our kind of current base was 65 years old plus, and we wanted to get down into the late 30s, mid 40s. So we had long runway of growth as we developed these new products. I mean, significant investment in the products and the brand. We built an operating system called Down by Nothing, which was about bringing a progressive attitude to the appliance industry and moving the industry forward, backed by Whirlpool Corporation. And so as we came to market, we had to transition websites. Okay, so this is a failure about website transition. That's the point here. And so my current website platform, which is very important in the appliance industry, because you can imagine designers and trade partners and shoppers are going into this website to get information, to get knowledge, to learn about the product, to learn if it's going to fit in their cabinets, to learn what it looks like in white cabinets or brown cabinets or black cabinets. And so this is a huge part of the shopping journey. And we're transitioning all of our old products out and all of our new products in. And I've got one website, and a lot of my products sit on the same platforms. I mean, it's 10 engineering platforms across the globe. And so as we went from a Rackspace type platform to what was called a Adobe Experience Manager, not enough. It was essentially a complete failure. And a lot of things were happening in this. We had absolutely amazing experienced designer that came up with these website comps that were fantastic, that were going to do the work of transferring the information. And it looked great. It looked great on PDF files. It looked great on renderings. I mean, it was going to be amazing. But as we went into execution, we were lacking assets to actually bring this website to life. It was a different development team that actually developed the comps. We were moving fast, and we had some technology debt that was built up into the site. And all of this came together in an execution that was below the brand promise. It didn't transfer the information that we needed, and it was a failure, and it was my fault. And it was all on me. We moved too fast. There's no way we were going to be able to put two new designs on top of a website that carried our two old designs. It takes a long time to transition the old ones out and the new ones in. And so, I hated it. Failure drives me. I had to own this. This was my leadership failure. And so I rapidly investigated what happened to determine the root cause. We made the necessary and tough calls that needed to be made. And the site was stabilized in less than 6 months. And to this very day, it's on an amazing growth path. It's got a rock solid web development team surrounding it right now. It's doing very progressive thinking in terms of helping consumers understand, shoppers, designers, architects understand what product is right for them, how to get access to it, how it's going to perform, what to expect, and that's what this website is supposed to do. So it was a painful learning that I had to own, but it's what fueled and motivated me I was motivated to get it fixed. We fixed it, like I said, within 6 months. And so there's two learnings that come from this. And I think they're interesting learnings, really, to be honest with you, because first of all, as a marketer, we look at websites every single day. We look at them, we engage with them, we buy stuff off them. And in my mind, developing a website at the time was easy. It's easy to develop a website. What's so hard about it? We've had websites for decades, right? It's easy to produce. It's easy to maintain them, but it's not. websites are very complex. The people that work in this space of experience design, UX design, production, development, and actually the maintenance of it is a very complex space. And it's something that you shouldn't take for granted as a marketer. It's something that you shouldn't go too fast on. And so I look at websites today, I look at digital teams today with a much sharper critical eye than I ever did in the past. And I don't think I would have had the deep appreciation for this if I didn't kind of go through that failure. The other learning that I want to share with you, interestingly, I was once talking to Gary Vaynerchuk from VaynerMedia. I'm sure you know Gary. Everyone knows Gary. But he was talking about how we as marketers and leaders need to become practitioners of what we ask our teams to do. And so it dawned on me that, I was asking my team to develop these amazing websites and execute them. And I really, wasn't an expert in that space myself. So I got to become a practitioner. And I learned this in the Army. In the Army, you're taught as an officer to understand what all your soldiers are doing, to be in the trenches with them, to understand their skill. You got to gain their respect. You got to understand what they're doing and have empathy for it. And so I took Gary's advice and I decided to develop my own website. I decided to work on the Wix platform. I own a small business called Modern Day Knights, where we teach our local youth the values of hard work, positive attitude, discipline, teamwork, and fundamentals through the game of football. We actually started them off with flag football, and we eventually graduated them at a much later age into tackle football. We had about 120 kids actively involved in the program, and most of my marketing to build this program was through Facebook. But after hearing Gary talk and after going through this failure, I learned I got to get in here. I got to figure out how this works. And so I'm about to launch my website for the Modern Day Knights program that really builds the knowledge transfer that parents need about what Knights is all about, and it's given me a deep appreciation for the challenges that website team faced when they were launching the initial site a couple years ago. It's given me a whole new view of what they experience. I hope for my website knowledge to become a towering strength in the future as a marketer. But it was painful to go through, but it certainly is something that I share with other marketers that if you're in and around the website space, especially in the durables industry, so at going through the experience of kind of designing and building my own website, selecting the copy, selecting the images, the navigation flow, it gave me a deep appreciation for what that Gen Air web team was developing. And it's very complex, and it's very hard, and it's not a space that you want to rush. And so I definitely would approach it very differently. And I've got deep empathy for kind of what that team was going through in that original launch. Like I said, it's, very positive in the direction that we're going right now. The team's doing a fantastic job, but it's something that, what I would recommend to people is, if it's an area that you're personally, that you're struggling with, that you don't really know, as Gary Vaynerchuk said, get down there, become a practitioner in that space. You'll be a better leader of those type of teams as a marketer.
And so that is great advice for someone at your point in your career. And I really respect that view of Gary Vaynerchuk's. But what advice would you give to a student, someone that was new to the industry, on how to succeed if they're already doing the basic things like networking and reading and learning and so on? What's the key to success these days, do you think?
I do give this advice to my students at Notre Dame and at Rice. I try to push them in the direction of the advice I'm trying to tell you. But one of my mentors, when I was at Kraft Foods, he told me that you're going to do your best work if you believe that the work is right, the strategy is right, and you're willing to get fired over it. If you can put yourself like that into the work, you're going to do your best work. And that's always kind of, like resonated with me. And, it reminds me a little bit of the Teddy Roosevelt Man in the Arena quote. If you haven't read it, if your audience hasn't read it, you got to check it out. But he basically talks about, as you're striving to win a battle, certainly you want the victory. There's no doubt about it if you're in the arena. But even if you fail, and you fail miserably, it's better to be in the fight and fail than to be the critic on the sideline that actually doesn't have the honor to know what it is to fail as you're striving for that victory. And so I kind of put those two together. Put yourself into the point, if you believe in it, that you're willing to get fired and get in the fight. And so, I've kind of experienced that, to be honest with you. As I was talking about a little earlier, when I had the opportunity to lead the Gen Air business, it's Whirlpool's highest end luxury business. We've got aspirations for it to be the crown jewel of the company. I had responsibility for brand and product and post purchase and merchandising. And when I got over there, it was in some rough shape in terms of what we aspired it to be. As I said, it was a lower end business inside the world of luxury appliances. And we wanted it to be the highest end. We wanted it to be the market leader. So my job was to reposition it, as I said, from low end luxury to high end luxury, while aging it down by about 25 years. And through the process of kind of resetting the brand strategy and translating it into the business, I had my team and I had the opportunity to touch, over 1,000 people, to inspire them, engineers, marketing teams, external agency partners. We used the concepts that I teach in my Notre Dame classes to develop the brand strategy towards a younger, more affluent, more modern consumer. And we invested in product, we invested in services, we adjusted all the marketing mix to deliver on the brand promise. And so we launched an operating system. As we're bringing 200 new products out to the market, we launched an operating system called Bound by Nothing. And the product is pretty kick-ass. Like when you see the designs, when you see the performance, it's heavy investments in modern designs, material selection, performance. I'm in the process actually of getting them put in my house right now. I can't wait to have them here in that month after my team and I had a chance to work on them for a couple of years. But Bound by Nothing, the operating system, was about waking the appliance industry, the high-end appliance industry, up to the design preferences of the designers and the end consumers, the younger consumers. It was about being limitless in our approach to design. And so for Gen Air, those 200 new products translate to 5,000 different combinations, and to be defiant for good reasons. Like, rebels out in the world, innovators, they do things that are different. They do things that are about moving the world forward, about moving humankind forward. And this is one of those type of brand stories. It's a rebel archetype that's very consistent with the history and of the brand and the founder. And so it wants to do things that are good for the appliance industry, that move it forward. It doesn't do things, defiantly just to do them and be silly. It does them for the greater good of the appliance industry. And so as we're launching these new products, we're bringing out very kind of progressive, defiant communications and different ways to think about appliances. And the appliances look, they're beautiful appliances. They look sexy. People call the appliances sexy. They call it the Louis Vuitton of appliances. People refer to them as a Lamborghini of the appliance industry. They're hot looking products. And so the brand had to kind of carry that type of weight. And as we come out to market, our target audience absolutely loved the tone, the attitude, the direction that the brand was going. It was a complete reset, new logo, an adjustment to the mark. We actually used to have a hyphen in Gen Air. We took the hyphen out. And our target audience absolutely loved it. Sentiment through the roof, health scores, very, very strong, way higher than we were expecting, brand health scores. And that's what everybody was talking about. However, the people that were outside of the target audience that really didn't understand the direction that brand was going, really struggled with the concept of, they thought it was too edgy. They thought it was too provocative. They thought it was too progressive. And a lot of these people, don't actually buy these products, and they don't even live in the kind of the areas where we're targeting the audience. And the beautiful thing about Whirlpool Corporation is it's a portfolio of brands. We cover about 90% of the industry. We're very inclusive to all different consumer profiles out in the market. And this happens to be a consumer profile that's younger, more edgy, kind of lives on the coast. And so, people took, very, like, oh my gosh, what is Gen Air doing? Did Whirlpool Corporation sell Gen Air? And I just remember being, nervous as can be. My legs are shaking. I'm thinking to myself, damn, I'm in the arena. My team and I are in the arena, and we're about to see what failure feels like. But at the end of the day, I'd rather be in the arena and try to grow this business in the direction that the leadership and organization wants it, and fail versus being the critic on the sideline that's just complaining about like all the reasons and what's wrong. And 1 year after launch, it won a North American Gold Effie. I can remember sitting at the Effie ceremony thinking, I'm just happy to walk away with a bronze. I can't believe we're even here. I mean, the team works so hard, and there's such an amazing brand strategy the team put together. And when they announced gold amongst some amazing competition out there, I just couldn't believe it. The product today is seeded out in the market. It's competing against competitors that we have never competed with in the past because it's moved up the food chain, if you will, a little bit. The positioning has moved up with how strong the product is, and we've aged the business down by about 25 years, and so we've set that up for success, hopefully for the long term. But damn, if that wasn't super uncomfortable, and as a marketer, you have to learn it's not your job to project your own values and attitude and beliefs onto the consumer. Okay. It's not your job as a marketer. And I tell this to my class all the time, as a marketer, your job is to master the consumer audience that you're after, to know them intimately, to know what motivates them, to know what engages them, to know what would cause them to stop doing one thing and start doing another thing, and to engage them across the full path to purchase. And I see so many times young marketers, they just want to put their own views into the conversation, and it's a fatal flaw. It's never going to work. That's not, by the time you develop the strategy and put the communication as a product out into the market, you landed on someone that looks more like you than it does the actual person that was supposed to buy it or shift their behavior. And so in this case, very uncomfortable because I don't live on the coast. I am not the consumer in this case, but we understood it, and we kind of leaned in, and it's in the third year right now, and it's doing well. So that's kind of what I wanted to share there. Yeah.
So there's so much advice there, but the one question that I've been asking guests recently is what is your best marketing tip? So that's a great advice to students, and I think that's great. Be in the fight, don't be on the sidelines. But what is that best bit of marketing advice or marketing tip that you've been given either recently or many years ago that you keep coming back to, that you share most often?
Yeah, for sure. When I was learning at Kraft Foods, kind of classically trained marketing, CPG industry, I told you I was surrounded by some brilliant marketers. But when I and I kind of had a sense of kind of how to build brand strategy. I had a sense of what it take to mobilize and motivate an agency and cross-functional partners. But when I landed when I was at Whirlpool, I worked for a guy named Bill Beck. He's currently the CMO at Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, and he started talking to me about this concept of archetype mapping. I bet your audience has heard of it, but I bet they're not experts at it. It's actually deeply rooted in psychology. I've researched it. I now teach it to my Notre Dame and Rice classes. But the psychologist Carl Jung, back I think in the early 1900s, he was trying to understand how people draw meaning with each other and purpose. And what I realized, as Bill kind of started to introduce me to this, what I realized is that there's 12 archetypes, and everybody is drawn to certain archetypes. Whether you're a like celebrities have archetypes, people have archetypes, brands have archetypes, politicians have archetypes. We're all the people we know the most. The people we know the most are the ones that are expressing their archetype the clearest. And when you distinctly stand for something, because archetypes get to like personalities and image and style, when you are kind of expressing your archetypes to the fullest, you're probably being the purest form of you. And people clearly know who you are, and they're drawn to it. The people that are looking for that style or that personality, that attitude, on what product they're purchasing or what politician they're voting for or what celebrity they want to follow. Like, the archetype mapping is right at the center of all of it. And so, you've got 12 of them. You've got the ruler, you've got the rebels, you've got the heroes, you've got the caregivers, you've got the innocents. And so I started to use this in my brand strategy development when I was on the Whirlpool brand, and we mapped Whirlpool into the caregiver, and it's on its 6th or 7th year of their brand strategy. And the concept of a caregiver providing, through cooking, cleaning, washing, these are acts of sacrifice for other people around them. That's exactly what a caregiver does.
So what is the specific advice? Is the specific advice to understand which of the 12 archetypes your brand is, and then build everything off that? Is that the line?
as you're building your brand strategies, you need to understand who your archetype is. And I guarantee when you get into the setting with all your cross-functional partners, if you ask everybody to say, we're on brand X, what archetype is this? As we understand, you got to understand what the archetypes are. You're going to find that everyone's got, it should be a hero, it should be a ruler, it should be a caregiver, it should be a creator. You're going to be all over the place. And once you align the strategy towards one archetype, magic happens. Okay. Everybody understands what that brand is all about. And I don't care if you're a marketer or a finance person or a salesperson or you work, in manufacturing, everybody can relate to a rebel. Everyone can relate to a ruler. Everyone can relate to a hero because we see them every day. We see heroes out in the world like Tom Brady. We see rulers out in the world like LeBron James or Conor McGregor. And we see rebels like Apple and Amazon out in the world. And so they can relate to it. And so when you can get people aligned to relate to something, then you start to move people in that direction. And the neat thing about archetypes, actually, which I love about the class, is you yourself have an archetype. Myers-Briggs and all that personality mapping is heavily rooted in Carl Jung's archetype mapping. And you'll start to notice that the brands and products that you're attracted to tend to kind of have a connection with the archetypes. And brands that do this well draw those people in. And so I've seen it be incredibly powerful. Really to align a broad group of people in a certain direction by being very clear what your archetype is. And oh, by the way, you can't be multiple archetypes. You can be on edges of an archetype, but if you're trying to be multiple archetypes, it kind of dilutes. It really dilutes the personality, and you basically start to stand for white noise. People don't know what it stands for. I don't understand its distinctness. I don't understand the identity of that brand. I don't know what it means.
This episode of the Shiny New Object podcast is brought to you in partnership with MadFest. Whether it's live in London or streamed online to the global marketing community, you can always expect a distinctive and daring blend of fast-paced content, startup innovation pitches, and unconventional entertainment from MadFest events. You'll find me causing trouble on stage, recording live versions of this podcast, and sharing a beer with the nicest and most influential people in marketing. Check it out at www.madfestlondon.com. We're kind of at the halfway stage now, we need to move on to your shiny new object. So your shiny new object is very specific, and I'm very excited to talk about it, which is mapping marketing activities across the shopper journey. Now, I think I know exactly what that means, but can you just give an overview of what it is and why that's your shiny new object?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this space right now. And I told you a little bit about my background, kind of really from craft foods and that CPG industry coming into a durables, kind of white goods, more highly considered purchase with appliances. And my early day, I've always, we all us marketers, CMOs talk about this all the time, integrated marketing communications, 360 degrees. We want to surround the consumer with the right message at the right time. And to be honest with you, having gone through that on many brands with major investments, the concept of IMC in my mind is dead. It's bullshit. It's never 360. It's not even close to 360. And I think where we're moving to as a marketing community is we're moving to something that is beyond IMC. We're moving to something that is more desired consumer experience. It's more expressing your brands across the full path to purchase, across the full shopper journey. And that's different. Your marketing investment, your marketing investment has a hard time getting to the full path to purchase. You have to start to mobilize and organize, cross-functional organizations internally against the path to purchase, whether it's way upper funnel, whether it's middle funnel, whether it's at the point of purchase, whether it's the post-purchase experience. And as you start to think about, I think that's what we always wanted IMC to be. Marketing investments just can't get there. It takes internal capabilities. It takes full alignment behind the consumer, full alignment behind the brand strategy. And it's interesting because I think that's where our marketing world is going to. And I'm excited about it. To me, it's harder. We're going to get to a place where marketing investments are going to drive faster, more demonstrable ROI against the growth of the business. Almost, I envision a space where, when you raise or lower price, you've got price elasticities on your business. In this case, I envision a future where content creation is actually becoming just as powerful as price manipulation or price management, price strategy, because we are, in fact, finally putting the right message that influences a consumer, a nudge to the left, a nudge to the right, to actually engage in that behavior that you always kind of wanted, because it's good for them and they need this. And ultimately, hopefully you're selling products that do good out in the world when you're doing this. But your ability to impact the consumer and change behavior is going to be more demonstratable than anywhere in the past. And I think that's where the marketing community is going. A lot of it's driven by this crazy growth of omni-channel, digital assets, digital tools that we have access to. For a long period of time, we didn't know what to do with it all. But I think we're starting to get to a point where we're going to be able to take control of our own demand generation, and drive more return for our investments, which is, a responsibility that we have to our shareholders if you're looking at a company that has that type of setup.
So, Jon, question: if someone is really into this idea of mapping all those activities across the shopper journey, but they think, I haven't got the influence, or I haven't got the budget, but I'd like to create the opportunity to do it. What's the best way to get started with this type of approach?
First of all, it's not easy by any means. I think if an organization wants to go in this direction, they want to get much more demonstrable returns on their marketing investment, you first have to go back to your consumer. You have to go back to your brand strategy. If that's not rock solid, if you don't have the ability to translate your brands directly against the type of products that you develop and why you develop those products, and be able to, call balls and strikes on what is good for the brand because the consumer wants it and what's bad for the brand, then all of what I'm talking about, you're never going to get there. But if you got rock solid brand strategies rooted in the consumer, rooted in the history of brand, rooting in the meaning and what you want to mean as an organization over the next 20, 30 years, well, then you can start to map in that impact on the marketing mix, the 4 Ps. And what I'm talking about here is a next step. Okay, so step 1, brand strategy. Step 2, translate it into the business. Step 3, now start to map it against the journey by which your consumer goes to purchase your product or service. And when you start to understand the expectations of the consumer, and I'm talking from, initial trigger all the way to they got the product in your house and they're engaging with it, to they want to buy another product, and are they going to stay inside your ecosystem? Yes or no? Do you have them locked in? And as you start to map that, I think a majority of businesses, if they're honest with themselves, have a lot of gaps and deficiencies. And if you close those gaps and deficiencies, you're only making the consumer more loyal, more committed, more in favor of your ecosystem. And I think that's good. I think with no matter what happens, if you're taking care of the consumer through the act of purchasing your products, and especially in a highly considered industry like cars or mattresses or small appliances or whatever, then the likelihood that they recommend you increases, and the likelihood that the next time that they have to purchase, one of your products, the likelihood increases that they're gonna come back to you. And that's the lifetime value equation that makes a lot of sense for organizations. And it's financially positive for the organization.
I'm really keen to know, who do you think is absolutely nailing this right now?
It's tough to answer that question honestly, because I don't think that, as I said, I think a lot of the marketing world is still, talking about 360-degree IMC, right message, right time through the media investment. I think, I'm inspired by Nike and their attempts through personalization. Inspired by some in the airline industry. Some of my experiences with Southwest have been pretty positive across the board. Purchasing, my tickets and experience of going through. I don't love having to wait for my seat and all that stuff, but I'm okay because everything else is pretty good. I think that they're doing a good job inside their ecosystem. But honestly, I'm looking. I'm looking as I'm a student of the game. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to get better so that I can share it with my students and share it with my own, everyday work life. So I think those are two that stick out. Nike's kind of growth towards personalization. And actively managing their data in a way where you're staying inside their ecosystem, or even some of the airlines are starting to do a pretty decent job in this space.
And is it possible for a brand that isn't a high consideration purchase, like a car or home appliances, could this work for a soda, or could this work for a lollipop, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question. I love that debate, to be honest with you, coming from kind of more of the CPG like background, macaroni and cheese, and barbecue sauces, to this, what was once considered a non-marketing industry in durables or whatever. You're probably not going to love my answer, but my answer is to your audience is check out like these more highly considered industries, because they are really, really interesting. If you want to put your marketing chops to work, if you want to like really figure out how to drive, to unlock insights across a path to purchase, to kind of inspire shoppers, consumers in your direction through investments across this, long path to purchase. It is complicated. It is complex. It's not for the weak-hearted by any means, but it is fun. It is fun. It's challenging, and it really puts, I think, the ability to leverage technology, to the ability to leverage traditional marketing capabilities, the ability to leverage digital, and create experiences that we all talk about, but are we really all going out there and doing that for our consumers? And as we do that more and more, I think it's good for the world. It's good for business. It's good for our for our audiences. So I don't know. I haven't dug in it. I've been more on the side of saying, like, it's a really interesting industry if you're a marketer to challenge yourself to see how good you really are.
So, Jon, unfortunately, we're at the end of the podcast now. So you've shared so much, all the way from your military background, all the way through craft, and all the way through some highs and lows working with Whirlpool. But if someone wanted to reach out to you and discuss marketing across the shopper journey or anything else, how would you like them to reach out to you?
Yeah, for sure. I love talking. I love talking about this stuff. So please feel free. My email is jon.hall, hall23@yahoo.com, and hit me up on LinkedIn. Like I said, I'm a student of this. The thing about marketing that's fascinating is nobody can master it. It's changing every day. And so it's a game that you just got to constantly stay on top of. So I'm sure, like, there's, I have so much to learn from other people. So I love when people reach out to me, and if there's anything I can do to help people, I love to help people.
And if someone's going to reach out to you, what makes a killer outreach to you?
Oh, killer outreach. I pretty open to, I love coaching, and I love teaching, and I love helping people. And so I'm always going to be biased towards what can I do to help this person. Honestly, Tom, I've had a number of people in my career who have helped me, people who have watched over me, who have nudged me in the right direction. Many people at Whirlpool, many people at Kraft, many people in the military. And my best way to say thanks to them is to pay it forward by helping other people that were, trying to develop like I was when they were helping me.
Jon, that is an absolutely lovely way to finish a brilliant podcast. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Tom.
Hi, just before you go, I'd really appreciate it if you could take the time to write a review of the Shiny New Object podcast on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, whatever it's called these days, or whichever podcast provider you use. We're an indie podcast, so it would go a long way for us if you could just share the word and give us a bit of a support on those channels. That would just be fantastic. If you haven't got time, that's also cool. And yeah, if you could tell your colleagues about the podcast, and also, if possible, don't forget to subscribe. And I'd love to hear your feedback. If you'd like to speak on the podcast or be a guest, or you think I'm asking the wrong questions, anything, I'd be super interested to hear what you think. So please email me at tom@automatedcreative.net. That's TOM at, I'm not going to bother spelling it. Anyway, you'll work it out. Thanks so much.